Perfect. Right. So we'll spend another minute on your teacher exemplar. Is Mrs. Butler in the bathroom? Do you know?
She was? I don't know. No, I didn't see her after that.
Okay. Get this out for you. This is our focus standard for today.
We knew it. We knew it was coming.
Uh-huh. Perfect. Sorry. No worries. All right. Great. Would you mind showing me?
Oh, yeah.
More? All right, well, teammates, I'm so excited to dive into our first weekly student work meeting. This is something that as we start to get more and more data throughout the course of the year will be a more consistent part of our practice. And I'm really excited to get to dig into some data and connect it to our standards today. So today we're going to get the opportunity to dive into student work from the first math benchmark assessment to determine an area for reteach. That's an area where a majority of students struggle to be able to address and close that gap. Since this is our first whole grade weekly student work meeting, we don't have any prior work to review, any reteaches to look at, so we're just going to dive right in by looking at today's standard focus. So today, if you turn to the first page of your note-taking sheet, you'll see at the top there's a part that says Focus Standard. As I am sharing the Focus Standard, you're going to be writing it in there. So as you can see on these pages that I printed out for you with the standard and up here on our poster, today we'll be focusing on Standard 2, MDC8. And the standard reads, solving word problems involving dollar bills, quarters, dimes, nickels, and pennies using a dollar symbol and a cent symbol appropriately. So take just a minute to fill out the top of your note catcher. Again, the focus standard is 2 MDC8. The assessment is benchmark 1, and the focus question today is question 35. All right, so now that we know the standard we're going to focus on today, and you have hard copies of it in front of you as well as it posted up on the anchor behind me, we're going to spend 2 minutes in your own words independently. I want you to use the no-show chart on your note-taking sheet to write what students should be able to know and show to show mastery of this standard. It can take 2 minutes. One more minute to fill out your no-show chart for this standard. We're going to pause right there. We're going to talk with a partner or a group of 3. So we'll have Carissa and Colby be partners and then a group of 3. You're sharing with your partner what do students need to be able to know and show. Afterwards, we'll share out and we'll chart it as a group. Take 2 minutes. Go.
They need to know the symbols for money, like cents
and dollar symbols, and like when it's appropriate to use one or the other.
I said the same thing, and then I said how to, or they need to know all coin values.
They
and
need
also
to know how to
skip count
group
by
coins,
5,
which means
10s,
to
and
know how to group
25s,
coins, and then also
do that
like
interchangeably.
Make sure you bring that one up.
how to skip count too.
Yeah, for show, like they need to be able to show a vision.
I think
So
like a
like
lot of
using
my
what they know about
students
like
know how to make
mixed
the groups
groups,
right,
and
but
then
it's counting
be able to
it
like show their
there.
counting, both like final and initial counts.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, so
counting
something
the
like
groups
just
overall to find the
generally
total.
using
They also
like
need to know how to
groups,
invest
total
in
count,
like
or
this
group
type of
count.
like word problem
And
question.
then
So they need
also,
to
like,
know like what is this
show
question
that they
asking
know
me to do and what is the
the
information
answer
from the
is
question that I
supposed to look
need
like
to
and
answer it
not
accurately.
Will you bring that up if it doesn't come up?
interpretation.
All right, let's bring it back together. I know that was a little faster than 2 minutes, but I heard a lot of great ideas and I want to get them up here on the board. So if I can have Carissa, would you mind being our note taker
Oh my
up on the
goodness.
poster?
No pressure.
We're gonna call out what students need to know and show to show mastery of standard 2 MDC 8. Yasmin, could you start?
Yeah, so they need to know the coin values, and then we also said in our group they need to be able to know when to use like the monetary sign, so
Mhm.
dollar sign and the cent sign, and where it goes.
Yep.
Also know how to skip count by 5, 10s, and 25s and do so interchangeably.
We also said how to create efficient groups.
How to invest in a question and pull out the important information from the question that they need to answer.
I think the invest in the question you could put under the show, so that's something that they're showing is like what they
Showing,
need to
yeah.
do. Let's think of show that way.
I also had like coin values, but also like coin names, especially in like the word problem.
Ooh, that's great, in written form.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What else?
I don't know if this is know or show, but I was thinking about a way for them to like track what coins they've counted. Like for this question, like I think that's where a lot of kids got lost. So like show
I
that
think
they've
show,
used,
yeah.
like show how they know they've used something from the problem.
Yeah, I think like it goes with like being like neat and organized with your work. So like show like some form of like organization,
Yeah.
with, like keeping track of coins. Like
The different steps they took for
Yeah.
the problem.
I think especially if you are grouping the coins, how do you make sure you have all 5 of the dimes represented? I think
Right.
that's where some of us got
Yeah.
lost.
Yeah.
What else do students need to know or show?
Show how they counted, so not only their total, but also the values of, if they made groups, the values of those groups.
Yep. Anything else to add? We take a second to read it over. Thanks, Ms. Kozo.
totally.
I think beyond just knowing monetary symbols, also be able to show how to like write their answer correctly and that they know how to use those when answering the question.
And like also going along with that, knowing when it's appropriate to use a dollar sign versus when it's appropriate to use a cent sign.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe choose one.
Awesome. I'm gonna add some ideas up here. Because if you wouldn't mind still
Oh,
being
yeah,
my
totally.
scribe, I think. So we have. I think one thing I would add to know is know how to efficiently make a dollar. I think an exemplary response would include some evidence of grouping the coins into a dollar, especially because that's something that is transferable to what we're doing in Money Jar right now. I also think knowing how to convert cents to dollars would be another no. And then to build on Colby's comment about skip counting, I think something that students need to know, maybe if you could draw an arrow
Yeah.
down, would be how to extend the counting sequence from any amount by any amount. Specifically thinking like when I end on a number like 75, how do I count by tens from that number? Great, and then I think for show, the thing I'd like to add is we have how they counted final and initial counts, good. I think in the similar vein to what I just shared for no, like what this looks like in practice is accurately skip counts from any amount and by any amount. That's like what the kid is actually doing. All right, Thank you, Kozo,
Yeah.
for being our scribe. So now that we've kind of unpacked the know and show of the standards, what students need to know, thank you, and be able to do to show mastery of this standard, I want us to take a look at the teacher's written exemplar. So when you came in as a do now, I asked each of you on that second page of your packet to draw out what you think an exemplar response to this question is. If you turn to the third page, you will see my written exemplar. I want you to take 2 minutes with the same partner to review your exemplar and my exemplar and discuss what are the keys to an ideal answer. So again, you're discussing what are the keys to an ideal answer. You can record it in that second box on the front of your note-taking sheet. So Emily, what are you discussing with your partner?
The keys to an ideal answer, comparing it from ours to your exemplars and then writing it in the box.
Great. All right, let's take 2 minutes. Go ahead.
I think that knowing that
It has all of the
if
coins
you,
that were in the problem.
make a group of
That was a big
25
one.
to compete
Yeah.
that dollar,
Area
then
that showed
no
up
matter
was
what
A.
you do to get
And I think
rid
that
of
the fact that there wasn't like a number and numeral there.
Yeah,
Is
I also
starting
think like it's just like the groups are really clear.
Mm-hmm.
Like the group
I
of
think
a
also just,
dollar
like,
is circled. Like
making
we
sure
like coached kids to circle the dollar, but also
everything
like
is labeled
the
really
group of
clearly.
25 underneath, like in both sections,
neatly.
even when it's
not
in
all
this
over the
dollar,
place,
is like
it's $1
like
really
underlined.
represented.
How does that relate back up to the no
I
show
think
that we
also
made?
It
just
shows that they
something I didn't
understand
do,
how
but,
to
like, a push for me is to
make groups,
include
and then
the
also like
dollar sign
from
when
those
you're-
groups,
I
making
do
them
like
bigger
100
groups.
and then I
Yeah,
just
so
like it
know
shows
if I'm
the
gonna
flexible
from there,
understanding
but I
of
think
grouping.
especially
Also
with
their
like kids
initial
getting
and then final.
Yes.
stuck with
Yeah.
like
And I
how to
think that was
represent
a
it with a
big
dollar
area
symbol.
for
I think by like
thinking
doing
over
okay when I
our
do a dollar and then like
student
knowing
work
okay
from
now this is the sense that I'm
And I
like
think,
putting
like,
on. I think
going
it's
back
much
to
clearer
the,
than just being like and after the 2 numbers you put a period.
The accurately skip counts by any amount
Yeah.
from any amount for like the
and I feel like
counting
it shows,
sequence,
like,
like it's
the
clear
final
after the
initial counts, like, it
125, they
shows
know that
clearly
like,
labels,
the dime shows that it's a group of 10,
efficient
so
groups of
that's what's
coins,
next.
and
And then
then
moving
shows,
on to
like,
ones
how they
after. I
got
think
their
that
final
that's,
total.
that was an area where a lot of kids got confused. Like
Did
they
you
made the
also
first
make a
dollar,
dollar
but then
in your
after
teacher
that they
exemplar?
like struggled to make
Yes.
the other
Okay, so that was
25
interesting.
and
When I
10.
first
They
made
like
my
sort of
exemplar,
just
I
like got
didn't,
lost
and then
with
I
their
went
coins.
back and I was like, I think a truly
Something
exemplar
that
student
I
who's
did
using
that
what
I-
they've learned in Money Jar
that
will
wasn't
be
on Sarah's, but I don't know if it would be
effectively
helpful
making
for
that
kids.
I
Is
had a
like
lot
the
of kids
first
who,
thing
like,
I did
did-
was
I
like
mean,
I
one
drew
like dollars
that
just showing
was
me like
yes.
green line, but I
that
think
were
like
there,
Wilson,
and then I made
Wilson's
the
one will
groups
have
after.
all the coins listed on
Yeah.
first.
I
I
did
think
the
without
exact
being
same
able
thing.
to
The problem
move them
is that, like,
around,
some
it's
of them,
tough
like,
to know
forgot
like
about
oh like
coins.
send
When they were trying to make groups, so like maybe if the
25
first step is
dime nickel
Yeah,
that it
maybe
was
the
there.
first step is
See,
to
that's
write
something I
out all
hadn't
the
considered
coins.
either,
Yeah,
and I
because
didn't see the
I don't know
same
if just
work,
reading the
We
problem,
actually
I would
did
be
this
like, oh,
as our,
cool, I have like
intervention
2
block
dimes and a
Monday,
nickel, and I can make
first step we took
25
was
and add this to my like
represent
3
or maybe it
quarters.
looks like
I
at the
don't
end,
know.
I go back and I count and I'm like,
See this,
check,
and
I
then
have all
groups
3
Yeah.
quarters, check, I have all
Yeah.
5 dimes, but I
I
think
think
some
that they
system of
need in
checking,
order to, like, check
which
it.
again, I think relates to
totally
what we
agree.
set up in the show, keep track
Yeah.
of the coins,
Yeah,
is gonna be
even when I
really
was
important.
doing it, I was like, oh,
I
did
did
I
the
say
same
All
thing.
right,
I
team,
need to do
let's
that.
bring it back. It sounds like we had some good discussion on what a teacher exemplar would look like. So I would love to know what are some keys to an ideal answer, and I'll take notes for this part. Anyone can share.
Final and initial counts like clearly and accurately labeled. We said specifically too, like with the dollar circled, and Colby and I were saying like with the dollar even like labeled as opposed to like waiting till the end to convert it to dollars.
Great. I heard that in this group as well. What else?
Creating groups and then counting them in, or organizing them in descending order. So like starting with $1 and then 25 and then 10 and 5, 2, and then 2 a penny.
I think something is just that it's like very neat and organized, so it's clear like where the groups are. It's not all over the paper, which I think was something that confused a lot of kids, was when their groups just were like not organized well on their papers.
Yeah, definitely. What other keys to an ideal answer?
Something that I did that I don't know, like it's not something that we've done before, but like I drew all the coins that were in the problem out first and then made the groups after. And the reason I did that was because when I was thinking about it, I was like 3 quarters, 5 dimes, 2 nickels, like I'm having trouble remembering like where all those coins are and like how I can make groups with them. So I wonder if like for a lot of kids who I think lost track of which coins they had used, if that would be helpful to like draw out the coins first and then make groups.
How does that relate up to our know and show?
I think it helps keep them organized, keep track of coins, and then also helps them show how they counted, because I think some kids also didn't make groups because they just drew out all the coins and then counted across. But if they had all the coins written first and then made groups from that, just like they do in Money Jar, it's like you have the coins in front of you.
Yeah.
I think that would help them make more purposeful groups to help them count more accurately and efficiently.
Great. Anything else that are the keys to an ideal answer when looking at your exemplar and my exemplar?
Correct use of monetary symbol.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I haven't heard yet, but that I saw in everyone's was everyone made $1 to start. So I'm going to add that to where it says creating groups. I think creating the largest possible. So, and like trying to use dollars and quarters. Okay, so let me recap what we have here. Keys to an ideal answer when looking at teacher exemplars. Our final and initial counts are accurately labeled with the dollar circled and labeled. That relates to what we have under the show that we're accurately labeling and keeping track of final and initial counts. We're creating groups the largest possible and organizing them in descending order. An exemplar is neat and organized, clear where the groups are. Again, that relates back to what we talked about under the show portion, that we're organized and tracking our coins. We're drawing out the coins and crossing them out when in a group to keep track of how we organized and to show how we counted into those purposeful groups, and correct use of the monetary symbols. Is there anything that we should add to our chart based on what we just discussed in the exemplar that isn't represented up there yet? I think one thing that we could add is we have efficient groups, but one thing that, again, we saw everyone do in their exemplar was make $1. So I think efficient groups and also largest. So whether that's $1 or 25 cents. Is that something we should be looking for in our students' work? Okay, so here's what we're going to do next. We're going to take all the unpacking we've done so far, and we're going to look at a student exemplar. So I asked each of you to bring one sample of student work that would be considered an exemplar. So if you could take that out right now. Perfect. And we're going to take 1 minute. This is an independent think time. I want you to think, how does your student exemplar compare to your teacher exemplar? How does your student exemplar compare to your teacher exemplar? Is there a gap? Did we miss something that students are doing?
Sorry, that's the one that I apparently left on my desk.
All good, no worries. All right, we're going to take 1 minute for that independent think time. So we have the dollar here and then the 25. It's an interesting use of the dollars.
Yeah, what I think, and this is interesting too, is she wrote out all the coins first, and then she circled, as she was counting, she circled the dollar.
So interesting that they did that.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize
I
that.
didn't think, I like, when I was like, oh wow, like, I can't believe that she did that, cause we haven't made like 50 cents out of dimes yet.
Mhm.
That's not like really purposeful, she just like circled it all.
Yeah.
But, I don't know.
All right, that was a minute. Let's bring it back. So I'm noticing some interesting trends, so I'm excited to unpack. I want to know, do students have different evidence to demonstrate mastery that we haven't already captured?
I think what Colby and I both noticed was that the kids in our class like showed all the coins and then like circled the groups like within those. So like I was like, why did he circle such a large thing? But it's because he drew all the coins that were in the problem first, and then he went and was like, I know that these coins together makes $1, and then counted the others after.
I think that speaks to what we were talking about before, that they need some new system for tracking the coins and staying organized when you can't physically move the coins
Right.
like they're able to do in Money Jar. It's an interesting element to this problem. What else did students show? Different evidence to demonstrate mastery.
Natalie wrote, I know 4 25s equals $1. I know we've been pushing kids to justify their thinking, so I think that it was strong because she explained why that she made that group.
What else?
I'm sorry if we didn't already say this, but like starting with $1, like labeling the dollar as $1 and not just 100, to then more accurately represent dollars and cents.
Great. I don't think we'd said that yet, labeling it
No,
as
I
$1 instead of 100
I've been doing it
cents.
like when I model, I've been doing it as 100, but I think it's so much clearer this way.
Then they don't forget the
Yeah.
money symbol too,
Yeah.
because that's what I noticed this kid did
Yeah.
too, is every
Or
group that they
represent it
made, they went
incorrectly.
like $1, $1.10, $1.20, $1.30 and used the symbol each time.
Yeah.
And then he didn't like forget the symbol at the end. And I think that helped.
And I think it just makes more sense because then I'm like, oh, after the dot is like that's my cent
Yeah.
side, as opposed to like, oh, well, I had 135, so now I like kind of do the 2 scoops over and put the dot. And
I
stuff.
wonder if that would help kids more if we tracked it like that
Yeah.
too. Like if we showed the symbol each time we made a
Interesting.
group so that they would like continue to do that.
In final counts, initial counts, or both?
Like both. I wonder if like, I think sometimes kids are like, they know that they're counting money, but they're not using the money symbol at the end. And I wonder if like in our models, if we showed like, I'm like using the symbols every time I count a group, if it would help them like,
Yeah, I think especially for dollar, because I think it's really
Yeah.
helpful to label a dollar as $1 $1.00.
Yeah.
But then like it doesn't make sense then to go 1.25 without the monetary
right,
symbol.
yeah.
So they from like yeah.
I think
I don't know if I would do like the initial counts necessarily like
I was
that.
gonna
I
say-
think I would still do 25 or 10.
right, definitely during final count. I think for initial counting it's a little tricky if there's not $1 there already to like keep going, okay, this is 25 cents, but we're still putting a dollar sign. That can get a little confusing, but for the final count to have it included, I
Yeah.
think that helps a lot.
Great, that's something that we hadn't unpacked in our own exemplars that I'm gonna add up to our no-show chart now to use the monetary symbol in the final counts and possibly the initial if that is $1, if it makes up
Yeah.
$1. I think that'll be important. So
Oh,
I
you mean
think
like
that
25 cents? Yeah, I don't think they need it for that.
No,
but
yeah,
I think
yeah.
the final count when you're putting it all
Yeah,
together.
like when I'm showing dime, nickel,
Yeah, I
25.
meant like each
yeah.
time they count a group at the end,
Yeah.
they're counting with a dollar sign. Yeah.
And I think that's something we saw a lot of our mid kids do is leave off the symbol at the end. And so I think that would help. So use monetary symbols with final counts. Great. Awesome. All right. So with that in mind, now that we've unpacked an exemplar and we've used that to help flesh out our know and show chart for the standard, we're going to start to look at the rest of our student work. I asked each of you to bring a mid and a low sample for question 35 as well, so if you could take those out. And this time we're going to discuss with a partner. We're going to take 2 minutes. I want to know what are the gaps between the rest of our student work and the exemplar. So Sophia, what are we going to be thinking about with a partner?
There's gaps between the rest of the student work and our exemplar.
Perfect. All right, and if you would like, there is a part to take notes on the front page of your note-taking sheet. Let's spend 2 minutes. Go ahead.
So I actually didn't have anyone that got a 1. They were either correct or incorrect. So that was fun.
So like yeah,
But I
picked
picked a kid as a
and then not
mid-kid
making
who
groups.
didn't
Then
make
there are things
groups
we saw,
who
like, oh,
normally
and I
makes
three
groups
quarters.
during money
Like
chart.
what I would do is I would draw like 3
So
quarters, I
like
would draw 5
Jefferson,
dimes, I would draw
he
2 nickels.
wrote out all the coins and then just
forget the
counted them
penny,
out
and
as
then, like,
he
then
didn't
not
make
make
groups, but he's already
groups
an
with
exemplar
that.
counted money jar. So
So
that's kind of
that was,
a
I think,
little
like, one
kids that I have.
We were kind of all
Middle
over the
group
map
was
with
this
this
one.
one.
I would say missing the
Ella
point was like
missed
the biggest chunk
missed
of
the
the
penny.
And then just also, I mean, I pulled a couple
When she was
of
counting
different-
because she
again,
made,
all
and
of
if
it
she made $1, she made 25, she did the dime, and she just forgot the penny, but she also used an incorrect monetary symbol. She put the dollar sign
again, like,
after
we're
the 35
all,
instead of
like,
at the beginning.
drawing out all
So it was,
quarters
like,
together, all
two-part,
dimes together, all nickels
question
together,
was
and then
one.
like trying to make groups, but then like that wasn't necessarily lined
But
up
when
in
he
a
was
clear,
adding
neat,
it,
organized
that's where he
way.
got in trouble. So
I
he
think
added
what I
it
hear you saying,
using,
miscounting or not
Yeah.
counting all
Yeah.
of the coins
Yeah.
was
numbers
also a
of
big
the
error.
Yeah.
What did you see, Colby?
Yeah.
I think
I know. And then
like for the
Eileen,
mid kids, what it came down to was
she
like
used,
neatly
one of the
labeling
students who's still
when
learning
like
how
because
to,
what Faith
um,
is she like wrote
like
out all the
what the
coins and she
values
erased
are.
them and
Yeah.
like put
So
them
the
back
groups
into
of
groups, but
25
like
were
only
off.
labeled a
Doesn't
couple
have
of them and
handles,
then
she
like
put
counted
54,
on, and so she made like
125,
super
and
weird
then
groups, and
10,
because she
20,
didn't
so,
clearly
like, that's
label
why
it, wasn't necessarily super
Andrew
clear how she
counted
got
how
to the
many
final
groups he
answer.
had.
That's exactly what I
So I think
had.
just
So-
like
There was a
pushing
CGI problem
to, like,
where they
There
had to
was,
do
which I feel like we need to
doing
take
the
in
whole
I agree,
time,
I agree.
But
like,
yeah,
purposeful
he like
groups for it
he
to be
represented all the
universal, not
coins
like a
like
group of
accurately,
11.
and then he was like 1, 2, 3, and counted how many coins he had.
I hear you
So I
using
think
a
that
lot of
part of that
language
is
from
like
the standard
investing in the
unpacking,
question.
right? Like
It's
final
like
and initial
this says how
counts,
much
but also
money
the
does Anna
efficient
have,
groups,
not
like
how
11
much,
is not
how many
exactly
coins does Anna have. So So I
a
think
lot of kids with
if
like
those
their
kids
last
had
whatever like
invested in the
nickel and
question
penny, they're like,
accurately,
well, I
they
know
would have
like
been able
5
to
and 6, I'm
understand
like,
what the problem was
yeah,
asked
but like that's
trying to
honestly
do.
a
So I
really
feel like for the
I
super,
think the
like for
other
the kids
biggest
that were
gap that I
low
saw was
in
kids
that
who
area,
went 25, 50,
it's
75,
kids that
80.
needed
Yeah,
to
and then
invest in
counted
the
on the
question.
dots.
And I
Yeah,
also
so I
think
think
that
kids
that
just
kind of
weren't
goes for
making
those
like
kids that were a
groups.
one
And
that
I also think
like
it
didn't
relates
include
back
the
to you
penny,
mentioned
like that's
earlier,
part of
the
investing in the
pattern
question
is
is
like from
knowing
any
all of
amount
the
and you
parts
need
that are
to be
included
able
that
to
you need to
count
include in
up.
your answer.
Right.
And
Whereas
I
like
think that
they
that's
went
what
to
was
the next
lacking.
one
So I
to 10
think
because
teaching
like
them
counting
to
by tens,
invest
I'm
in the
gonna get
question
to a
would have like
10,
helped bump those
and they
kids
need
up.
to be
And
able
I
to
think,
skip
I know a couple of kids struggle to
A lot of
understand that they're
Take just
difference
10 more
between
seconds.
with the
coins
dollar and then
Because I know that the
Yeah,
question
I had
was
some
like
kids just
$1.25,
jump there,
$1.25,
25,
and
50,
then,
75,
like,
100, and I was like,
$2.05.
that's
Yeah, so
put
put
that
there, we, at least for the
Like
small group of
$1.25,
kids that counted how many coins there
Yeah.
needed, it's just like a small reteaching
All right,
vocabulary.
let's bring it back to talk together. I would love to hear what are the gaps coming out when we're comparing the rest of our student work to the exemplar. Can we have someone from this group share first?
We talked about for a lot of these kids, we felt like part of what was missing was they didn't invest in the question, in that they like one student showed how many coins there were instead of like not realizing it says how much money does Anna have, and then another student, part of like the investment that she was missing was that there was a penny included in the problem. So we thought that for both of those groups, like it was more about like what's this question asking me to do, and then also pulling out all the important information from that question in order to answer it accurately.
Definitely, I think of that as like a missing habit, investing in the work, and then also going back to check like that you have all the coins represented. And what does a penny mean? That was something I think across the board that was missed because there wasn't represented numerically in the question. Great. What else did we notice? Anyone can share.
It's not represented in these two kids, or these two examples, but a lot of kids with messy representations miscounted. So like when their coins were like too close together, then they missed a coin, or missed a couple of coins. So I think like neat, careful representations are something that's holding a small group of kids back.
I hear us talking a lot about habits, and I think that that's going to be really important an aspect of our reteach. I want to think about like the conceptual understanding, like where was the breakdown when they were trying to answer this problem. One helpful way is to look back up at the know and show chart to see where students might have struggled. From this side, what did you identify?
Just like teammates who like didn't group because again like they were just representing kind of the coins straight from the problem and then weren't using that to then make efficient moves to move coins around, or who were like trying to like organize coins and then miscounting because they were trying to like combine
Circle
coins that were
8
all across the
things.
page. Yeah.
So those efficient groups.
I think a lot of kids in that like one section, for at least in my class, it was either they were missing the penny or they had an incorrect use of the money symbol. So like going back to teaching kids like what does it mean when we like use the dollar sign, and like where does that go in the problem? Like it shows that you have $1, that's why it goes on this side, and then showing like cents too, because I think that was a misconception for some kids.
Anything else in terms of a gap or misconception? I think to recap what I'm hearing so far is that I think it was very few students, but some didn't even know what the question was asking them to do and answered how many coins we have as opposed to the value of the coins, and that relates to that habit of investing in the question. Again, with investing in the question, knowing that a penny means 1 penny, but also do you have all of the coins from the problem represented on your sheet? I think in terms of a misconception about like what they need to know how to do is to make those efficient groups that are going to help like make the counting of the coins easier, of the value. I think another error that I didn't hear come up, but that I saw in the student work sample that I pulled was students who were having trouble with the skip counting pattern, especially when they ended on like a 5. So I think one of the biggest mistakes I saw, it isn't in this work sample, but they went 25, 50, 75, and they went to a dime and they said 80. And that was a mistake that I saw repeated in student work samples. So either like miscounting the value of the coins with some mistaken counting, or like not being able to extend the counting sequence from any amount, especially when it's not the friendliest number for that skip counting pattern. So with all of these gaps in mind, I want to use the language of the standard and the exemplars that we've made to identify like what is that key misconception that we think is going to be the highest leverage move for our students when we think about building up our reteach plans. So let's spend a minute talking to our partner again to think like what is that one highest leverage move, the most common error that's gonna help most kids be able to tackle this standard. So we'll go ahead and talk with a partner.
No, no, you're good. Go ahead.
Like we said before, investing in
habits
vision.
of
I think it's gonna be the biggest thing, like
organized.
realizing what is this.
Honestly, 'cause
Can I pause this real quick in terms of giving more framing? I want us to, we will talk about habits that we can do for students because that is important. However, I want us to, the key misconception should be a conceptual understanding. And again, I think the easiest way to think about that is like what in this no category is going to be most impactful and have the biggest impact on students, which misconception can we address? And then in the reteach, we will attack those habits that I hear coming up again and again, like investing. So again, we're thinking of a concept, and I think it's helpful to look back at the breakdown of the standard. All right, go ahead.
I guess I think it's probably making
think
efficient
fully
groups and then being able to skip
efficient
parts.
Yeah.
And any
like
number
making it
by any amount. Like I think the I think a lot of kids
to,
got confused too,
help
like when they
organize
stopped
the
at
ones in a way that
75,
will make
well, after they
counting
counted the
more
quarters instead of
efficient and
continuing on and
easier
like
to
making a
access.
full
Like,
dollar.
if you
So I feel
start
like
with
the misconception
75,
is that like
you're
in a
starting
word
with
problem,
your
like you
test
still
your skip
Yeah,
counting.
should be
If you
making
make
like
a full
efficient
dollar,
groups
it's
the
easier to
same
skip
way that
And
you
I
do
think
it
that like
in
when we think about like that's the move we
in,
need kids to make,
like when you have your
conceptual
coins with you
understanding
in
there
money
is like
jar.
how do I
So I
set
feel
and
like
count
the
a
biggest thing
sequence
is like I know
from
how to skip count
like any number,
by and
right?
from
It's like
any
if I'm making
group,
what I consider
by
an efficient group,
any
like, is
number
this something
from
that I
any
can
group
effectively
and
count on?
being able to like
So
efficiently
I
make a
think
dollar
a
and
gap
label
that we could consider is that how
I
to
agree.
set an accounting sequence.
it. Ooh, we have to get them. Sorry, it's 57.
Oh man, we're having too much fun. All right, teammates, well, we're gonna pause there and we're gonna continue this work next time where we'll stamp that key area for reteach and then we're actually going to plan our reteach, script it out, and practice. Thanks so much.